Hey ho, let's go. Welcome everybody. Hope everyone out there in YouTube land is having a day filled with awesomeness. Welcome back to the pit to our valued listeners, as well as those that may be joining us for the very first time. This is episode 99, the Mark Gastineau edition of Pugsley's Pit. As usual, I am Sean Pugsley Martin. This is Mike Nelson, a personal foul, roughing the passer, number 19 in Cleveland. We're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter, Pugsley's Pit, taking the podcast, YouTube. And remember, smash that like button and the subscribe icon to the YouTube channel for future episodes. We are back. We're going to be looking at good bargains on both ends on the trade front in the fantasy world. Who can you sell high? Who can you buy low? Along with our start 'em and sit 'em, and look, see who's out there on the free agent wire and those that it's time to send back to the free agent pool. As always, our hot take segment is coming up. A guy not on my list. I did just pick up Cedric Mullins in our league. Frankie Montas, I got 30 quality innings out of him. That's probably as good as I'm going to get. But
Boy, the hype you put on him lasted a week.
Well, what have you done for me lately? I'm in a pennant race. I'm trying to win a title here.
Yeah. You're looking at my taillights after last night.
Yeah, it's one night
again. And one of the guys on your list has a big reason why. So that'll be fun to talk about.
Anyhow, how are you?
I'm good. It's a special shout out to Rocco Constantino, the ombudsman of Ball 9. Today's his birthday, so we'll
it is. I should wish him a happy birthday and also remind him that I beat him in head-to-head baseball this week.
Well, I'm a little mad at him. If I got to be honest, I'm a little mad at him because he posted a picture on Friday from D'Alessandro's Cheesesteaks, the number one cheesesteak in the city of Philadelphia. Not Pat's, not Gino's. It's not. Argue with yourselves. It's not. Fun place to go. The cheesesteaks suck. D'Alessandro's is king. And I'm like, you don't call me? Wow. Like I'm 15 minutes away. I would have come and meeting you for, A, he didn't get hot pepper spread. Massive faux pas. B, he didn't get a beer, which is also and he blamed his lunch break on not getting a beer. What the hell's that? Come on, it's Friday. So in any event, it's his birthday anyway. So I'll be nice to him today.
I'll remind him that Shohei's bail bonds beat him last week. Tomorrow, how's that? In deference to his birthday. Anyway, interesting week. I thought of this topic when I traded Mason Miller to the big man in Massachusetts. Pained me to do so, but I'll explain why. I got back a lot of good players, even though the two main guys, Logan Gilbert and Mr. McGill in Milwaukee, were absolute horse shit last night. And Taj Bradley looked like Cy Young through the first 3 or 4 innings before the Sox got him. So
when you strike out 10 and give up 5 runs in 5 innings, does anybody really care?
It depends if you're playing categories. Anyway, sell high.
That's a good point.
Who's out there that's just burning it up? That now's the time, right? Maximize your return, especially if you're starting to fall out of. If you're in a dynasty league, you can recoup some players. Who should you sell high? And the first guy in your list, I've been after for a couple of weeks. So
I know
you can go first. Have at it.
I know it pains me to say this. But I and because I own him, I'm in 2 leagues. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about selling high on Jared Jones. And the reason I'm thinking about selling high on Jared Jones is his velocity's down his last 3 starts. I shouldn't be telling you this because you want him. And his contact rate's up in his last 3 starts. So I think that they might have caught on to him a little bit. He's still really good. I mean, the Pirates are set up. I mean,
yeah.
Clearly Paul Skeens is half decent at this baseball thing. Holy smokes. When your second start, you go 6 no-hit innings, and your last pitch at pitch 100 on the button's a 101 mile an hour fastball for a strikeout, number 11. Man, that guy's good. So they could be set up pretty well at the top of the rotation if Jones wasn't a flash when he came up, because he does have an unhittable slider. But I think because of his value, And for me, because of my depth of my pitching staff, he's a guy I can sell high on. Taylor
Okay.
Ward, I mean, he's got 10 homers, he's got 29 RBIs, he scored 28 runs, hit 281, which means he could be back to his 2022 self. He was injured last year. So I'm inclined to sell high on him because I don't think that I think that he's certainly not going to hit. Well, I don't think he's going to hit 40 homers, but he might be a good guy to move for a sell low option. And then the same goes with Tyler O'Neill. I mean, he's got 11 homers. He's only got 17 RBIs. And now one of the guys I was going to put on here, and then he went on a chaotic run, was Raf Devers, who's just set the franchise record for homers in consecutive games was 6. And you knew that was coming. So when he was scuffling, O'Neill was getting pitched to. He hasn't played a full season in his career.
Yep.
It's a good time to sell high on O'Neill before the inevitable occurs. So those are my 3. Those are this week's 3.
All right. Here's my 3. Mason Miller's number 1. I'll tell you what, the strikeouts are awesome. He's my favorite player to watch. Okay. Their reality is set in Oakland. Okay. The 19-23 start. Hey, major league, real life major league movie. No, they're not very good. They've lost 8 in a row. And the strikeouts are great, but as a closer, I want my closer to get saves, which he will. Okay. Because, but their offense is actually hitting, and they're not playing as many low scoring games as I thought they would. So, like, Miller is only pitching right now, as I think his last 2 times he's pitched, they threw him out there for 2 innings just to give him some work. And, 2 outings ago, 2 innings, 5 strikeouts. Okay. The other day he pitched an inning, no strike. I don't see the value as a closer. And again, he's so electric and he's so much fun to watch. And I just hope he's healthy for the All-Star game. I'd love to see him get the national, play on a national scale and to watch him because he's a treat. But I got maximum value for it, even though 2 of the 3 guys were absolutely terrible last night. So, but it's a long year. Logan Gilbert never pitches good against the Yankees. Jurickson Profar, who I tried to get in one of our leagues a few weeks ago, but was denied. Hitting 339, 7 homers, 31 RBIs. I mean, but is he going to sustain that? Probably not. He's been around a lot. He's a. How would you describe it? I would call him a serviceable baseball player, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll do enough to stay in the lineup. Is he going to win you a fantasy league? No. But standings are starting to take shape. We're in the second quarter of the year. People trying to get lightning in a bottle, even if it's only going to be for a couple of weeks. He'd be a desirable trade commodity, I would think, with the way he's playing in San Diego. The other guy's the Yankee, Luis Gil, 61 strikeouts, 49 innings, 5-1. He just coming off 14 strikeouts in his last performance. Is that sustainable? I'll ask you. You're the Yankee fan, but what are your thoughts on him and where is he?
So he was on my original list. And the reason I pulled him back is they say he doesn't have an innings limit. Oh, and another thing we beat the Twins at. Thanks for him. Like he couldn't help them right now. They can't get out of their own way.
8 in a row they've lost?
8 in a row they've lost. He started out the season, before his last 2 starts, he led the majors in walks. And they say he doesn't have an innings limit, but it looks like Garrett Cole's going out for a rehab outing. It could be as early as next week.
Yep.
And when he comes back, I don't see them. I see them a 6-man rotation for the Yankees makes sense for Cortez, Schmidt, and Heel. A 6-man rotation does not make sense for Cole, Rodon, and Stroman because they're veteran pitchers and they're creatures of habit. And Stroman was phenomenal last night on regular rest, and Rodon looks like he's settling in, and you don't want to get Cole off any kind of schedule at all if he's healthy. So in a 6-man rotation still puts pressure on your bullpen. If you're gonna limit innings for Heel, for Cole, for Schmidt a little bit, though they've been going deep. So I mean, knock on wood, the rotation's been great. I would be hesitant to trade for him That doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And for that very reason that I don't think they're going to send him down. How do you send him down? Right? I mean, how do you send him down? You can't. He just have to. I mean, he's struck out 14. And I know the Twins strike out a lot, and the White Sox strike out a lot too. But my gosh, I mean, you can't just sit this. I mean, though it would be a Yankee move. Oh, he's got options. We're going to send him down, and if somebody gets hurt, then we'll bring him back up. So it's like that, and jerk around with him, and he'll lose his focus, and he'll go to AAA, and he'll get the balls beat off him, and he'll never be the same again because they do it all the time.
That's what the Marlins did with Yuri Perez last year, and look at him right now. He's out for the year with an arm injury. They up and down. And
back to Miller real quick.
Yeah.
Closer's a finicky thing.
Obviously. I hate closers. Nobody values closer position less than I do. You can't.
Clay Holmes was my favorite closer since Mariano Rivera until last night, right? Because it happened. And Edwin Diaz was the best closer in baseball. He's talking about volunteering to go in a setup role until he gets right. So I think that now Miller's name has been tossed around, and I think half of it is made up. The A's are going to dump guys, and this is somebody they should dump. And I mean, he's not costing them anything. He's not costing them anything. So why would they trade him? It wouldn't make any logical sense. But we are talking about the A's. It wouldn't make any logical sense to trade him. But that adds to the sell high value is if the rumors are floating around that the Yankees, the Cubs, the Orioles are interested in his, the Rangers, they're interested in him, and those rumors are floating around. That adds value to a guy like him.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, the smart thing actually is for the A's to trade him. They're not going to win the division. They're not going to the playoffs this year, and you got a hot commodity. But you're talking about an incompetent front office that brought back next to nothing for Chapman, Olsen, and Sean Murphy. Okay, Langeliers is nice, fine. But you brought back next to, so they don't know how to do this. The only reason I could see them keeping him is at some point you're going to Sacramento. You got to have some players that have some recognized value. Now, Sacramento, they'll draw there because one, it's a small ballpark and the fans are going to want to go. But don't you want to have something for people to watch? You got Geloff, you got Langeliers. I just said Rooker's on fire. But Miller can be as much of a draw as a closer can be a draw because you don't know if he's going to pitch.
Right.
So that's where I think that's how incompetent I think the A's front office and ownership is. I don't think they'll trade him.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Marlins, they'd be the most incompetent, and that is really saying something. That is really saying something because they are totally incompetent, and the Marlins are worse, and that is hard to believe. Hard to believe.
I'll tell you why it's bad because the A's are trying to do this. They're trying.
Yeah, I know. The Marlins think they're building something, and they believe they have a plan.
Yes.
To get better. The A's have a plan to get worse, and they are abiding by that plan. They have been for quite some time.
Sure. Devalue the thing and then ask for investors to give you $500 million.
Yeah, good plan.
Makes sense to me. All right. Buy low. Go for it.
Oh, we talked about Randy Arozarena last week. There's no way on earth, I don't think, he's going to end the season at 158 and on a pace for like 13 homers and 40 RBIs and 13 stolen bases. I mean, he's averaged 20, 80, and 20 and about 270 the last 3 years. God knows I've tried. I've tried every machination to try to get him possible, and the owner in our league that has him values him like he's a keeper in a 5-keeper league, and so I think he's a little high on that. JT Realmuto's kind of having a quiet start to the season, and this is the point when I had him last year that I was frustrated with him and traded him. And then he went out in the second half and he went bananas and literally carried the Phillies offense while they had all the injuries in the second half last year.
Yep.
I mean, he's hitting 275. He's only got 5 homers. He did all his damage. I mean, 275 is still good for a catcher, but there are other catchers obviously having better years.
Yeah.
But he had a massive second half last year, and I think this is a good time to get him. if you want to go get somebody that's buy low, and then the buy low of all buy lows, and this is a risky buy low, but I'm thinking taking it makes sense, is Kevin Gausman. So early in the year, we talked about watch out for Gausman. His velocity's down. The Yankees beat him up. He bounced back a little bit, had a couple of good starts. He's 4.89, a 1.51 whip. He's still a strikeout an inning guy, but his last 2 starts, 9 innings, 18 hits, 10 runs, and 9 strikeouts. But his velocity's been up. So I feel like he's a guy that's going to go back to what he is. I don't think this is going to be a season-long thing for Gausman, and he's a guy you might be able to get on the cheap that would really help you for the rest of the year.
You got to know the temperament of the guy that owns him, right? Is he play it close to the vest, or is he temperamental and impatient like me and others that just say I've had enough. I got too many dents in my head from banging it off the wall, you know? So we'll see. My buy low, I go back to the major league leader in home runs right now is Gunnar Henderson with 16. I traded Gunnar Henderson late April, early May last year because I just couldn't deal with it. It was that bad. But you know it's coming, right? You think it's coming. Same with Churio. He's got an interesting part this week. He's got 3 left-handers scheduled Miami. Didn't do much last night. Jackson Holiday, and then Christian Javier, who got roughed up in his first game back and then was lights out against the A's. You take that worth a grain of salt, but he's worth watching because he is a strikeout guy. But the kids, again, you may have guys. You may have a guy with Churio in your league that he's trying to compete now, and you could look at Churio as an investment for down the road.
Yeah,
and you can go get him. And
dynasty, and I get that dynasty leagues. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah,
Pete Crow Armstrong, Manzanardo. I mean, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them that are kind of scuffling a little bit. Maybe Joey Loperfido. I mean, there's a bunch of them that if you've got room to stash them and you don't necessarily need them as a weekly lineup option, you probably get and they're riding on somebody's bench and they don't have that kind of demeanor. You may be able to get them. You may be able to get them pretty cheap. Javier, you could probably get real cheap.
Yeah, I got Javier in a trade, and then I cut him, and then I picked him back up again about an hour later. He was dealing on the A's.
I saw that.
Churio was part of the Mason Miller trade. I just got him too. And when you're as great an owner at this fantasy baseball thing as I am, you can do that. It's called depth.
You added him to the trade because it was an early morning trade, and you were trying to think of what you had we're going to have for breakfast. And you opened up the pantry and you saw Honey Nut Cheerios and you went, yeah, throw that Cheerio guy in. That sounds good.
Whatever it takes. But Jackson Cheerio. Let's get it done. All right. Who's hot and who's not? I will let you begin this week.
Yeah, this week. I mean, who's hot? Josh Bell has awoken and really awoken. I mean, he's really awoken. He's 12 for 28 in his last 7, 3 homers, 11 RBIs. He's starting to play some first base, so he'll soon be eligible as a first baseman. Though, depending on how you score your league, he's got first base eligibility from last year still.
Yeah.
He was primarily DHing. He got off to a really slow start. The Marlins are starting to score runs, which is in itself a monumental occurrence because that has been a little bit of a problem. And he's only 40% owned. So he's out there, and if you got a first baseman that you don't like me, I have 2 of them I don't like, he's a guy to look at. And then who's not, Graham Ashcraft. Yeah, I want that guy to be so good. And he's down to 38% owned. He's hyped up like the whole Reds pitching staff has been hyped. Starting rotation has been hyped up like they're gonna be this now last place team into the future. We've to date both missed on them. But his ERA is a little over 4. His WHIP's like 1.4. He's only got 3 quality starts out of 9, so he doesn't really go deep. He's about a strikeout an inning. He's about a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk. So, but he gives up runs in bunches, and he just like he was a 2-start guy this week, and like I'm just gonna cut him. I'm just gonna take myself. I'm just gonna take the temptation away to have him as a 2-start pitcher. Though in our other league, I did start him because it's helpful to have 2-start pitchers. But I would still wait him out. I don't think I would cut him. I did because of numbers. I don't think I would cut him if I didn't have to cut him. I would wait him out to see if he, when it gets warmer, if he gets a little bit, has a little bit, brings his peripheral numbers down a little bit. But man, right now, if you got other options, you got to put him in your lineup. You can't start that dude.
All right, my who's hot and who's not. It's interesting, right? Eddie Rosario, I would have thought he was 52, not 32. If you look at his stats on the free agent wire, he's hitting 190. But the last 21 days, he's the 13th ranked player in fantasy and CBS. 314 average, 13 runs, 5 homers, 14 RBIs. He's getting some. Lane Thomas may be back soon, but if Rosario's hitting like that, Jacob Young may be the one to sit. I like Jacob Young a lot too, but he just doesn't do enough. So Rosario, he's a guy to look for because if you're looking at year-to-date stats, you're going to go right by him. You're not even going to find him first,
right?
But if you change your search down, you go to the last 21 days, he's raking like he used to. So somebody keep your eye on. And then the Philly boy, Castellanos, 207 batting average on the year, 4 homers, 19 RBIs. What's the deal with him? Didn't he start slow last year too?
If I was a Phillies fan, he would be my Gleyber Torres.
I was going to put Gleyber back on the list.
There's nobody more frustrating than Nick Castellanos. Nobody. The way he's hitting right now could be a month. And then he could have a 2-week stretch where you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. This guy made an all-star team. I see why. 340, extra base hits all over the place, driving in runs like crazy. His defense has improved. And then he'll go right back into a 15-game stretch where you're like, is he even like, is there an intentional out? Can we add that? Because that's what's going to happen. Like if there's an intentional walk, you should be able to, as a manager, go, look, it would hurt me less if I just said, we're going to take the out. Because he won't ground into a double play. He won't get a strike him out, throw him out. He won't get thrown out himself, running a second on a single, that was blue. Like he won't do something to kill us. So let's take the intentional out because that's what he becomes. He's a very, very frustrating player. A good fit on a really good team. They can weather a guy like him. Yeah. But then he'll carry him for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So he I would never even have that guy on my roster. I'd be out of my mind.
They'll frustrate you because like you just said, you never know what's going. They'll get hot. They'll have their runs, but they're so maddening that you can't help but put them on your bench.
And that's when the run happens.
It starts on a Monday after the lineup's lock.
Yeah. So I put a guy like that in my lineup for this week. I'm terrified.
Here's the example of why I cut Eloy Jimenez a couple weeks ago. Because every Sunday he would get a home run, 3 RBIs, and maybe steal a base. And hey, I got to get him in this week. And then he'd go 1 for 22 until Sunday.
Yankees got a big giant DH on their roster that's like that.
All right. How is
11 home runs? I think he's been active for one of them in my lineup.
How is Mike? Don't call me or Giancarlo. Don't call me Mike Stanton.
He's hitting the ball. He's hitting the ball hard as hell.
Okay.
He's got the two fastest. He's got 118.7 and 119.5 home run this year. The two hardest hit balls in the Statcast era. And he's not striking out, though. He did have a golden sombrero on the weekend, but he's for the most part, he's having a pretty good year. And he's not having the Mike Stanton MVP from the Marlins year. He's just not. He can't run.
No.
My God, he's like, it's just awful. It's like watching Tony Oliva at the end of his career on 2 bad knees run. It's just
No,
he's afraid he's going to pull. And he probably can run, but he's probably so terrified of pulling a muscle at this point that he just has changed his running style. But he's having he's not having the okay, I can put this. I'm building my roster around this guy year that he used to be, but he's having I need this guy on my roster year.
Okay.
And then I've got to look at the matchups week to week and see who they're playing and where they're playing and do I want to have them active. And I've not done very good. I've not done very well with that. Not at all.
All right, go get him and cut him. The go get him, amazingly, Reed Garrett's only owned in 49% of CBS of this morning. And quite frankly, I was a little late to the party on him the other day when I thought I could use a backup closer because Yenier Cano has not taken the job in Baltimore for my third guy. Although David Bednar does have a couple saves in the last week plus. I don't want to worry about him losing his job, but Reed Garrett's been lights out. He's been the top-ranked pitcher in the free agent pool all year, but our league doesn't count holds, much against my wishes. But
Yeah.
But if he takes that job and flourishes, Diaz has got to go out and take care of himself first. Whatever his issue is, it is. But Garrett's the guy to pick up an E and a half. He got cut in our league this morning or yesterday. 183 the last 21 days, 207 on the year, 2 homers, 14 RBIs. He's not worth the time to even have on your lineup because how do you play that?
I can't figure him out.
No. He'll drive you nuts.
Though he has reached base against the Pirates in 56 consecutive games, and it's like 6th in the history of the game, in the history of baseball, for on-base streak against one team. It's crazy.
That is crazy. That's a nice stat.
Yeah, you get on base for 3 consecutive games in a series where you got literally like 8 hits total.
Yep.
And he was on base for some of them, and you're still hitting 189.
Got to get the Buccos on the schedule more.
Yeah.
All right, your list.
Well, Zachary Neto is first on my go get him guy. I mean, shortstop is a little dicey. You wait for Bichette to come back. You got injuries all over the place to shortstops. You got shortstop scuffling, and he started the year injured, and he's only 31% owned. But in the last week, I mean, he's still 6 homers, 17 RBIs, 6 steals. Most of that damage has been in the last 2 weeks. Like he's really starting to get it going, and he's a dynamic player in a lineup that, and even without Ohtani and Trout, that lineup still scores runs, and they need to score runs because their pitching is so bad. And then to cut them, like if you're one of the poor slobs, the 24% of the people that have the Andrew Heaney experience,
nope,
he is Kyle Gibson part due. Like his ERA's over 4. His whip's decent, right? But like he's 9 starts, 2 quality starts. I mean, when he's bad, he's awful. When he's bad, he's really, really bad. And those last 3 starts, he's been really bad. And it's just like, why even tempt yourself to have him on your team? Just Andrew Heaney. I'm still pissed at you from the home run in the Field of Dreams game. And I'm not getting over it because the pettiness lives in me very strongly. And you know what?
You're only human.
I mean, I want you to be on the Rangers roster when the Yankees come to town, and I want you to be shipped out of the world so you're not a benefit when the Orioles are there. That's where I sit with this right now.
Very good. Very good. You're not bitter, at least. So you got that going.
No, I don't harbor any ill will toward him at all. I mean, good for him.
All right. You ready for the closing 5?
I am.
Here's the hot takes. Listen, it's over in Oakland. They're all done. They have fallen behind the Angels in the standings, okay?
Saw that.
Again, you get off that 19 and 23. Oh, my God, boy, this is like the movies. It's not like the movies, all right? That bullpen wasn't going to hold up that long. The starting pitching isn't going to hold up, and we're just in May. I still love the ace players. I hate the front office, obviously. The divorce proceedings are underway. They'll be finalized at the end of the year. But they don't have the talent. They're a 4A team. They're not AAA. They're not Major League, but they're a 4A team. They're all done. And hence the Mason Miller trade for me. Who's not done? Chris Sale. All he had to do, I think, was get to an actual good baseball organization that knows how to handle talent and not get them hurt all the time. He'll probably get hurt next time out. 70 strikeouts and 56 and 2/3, looking like the Chris Sale of old. Maybe getting out of Boston and getting to a legit MLB franchise has maybe resurrected his career. It's certainly going to get the comments section in our this podcast fired up when our good friends out in the Massachusetts area see this, but they know I speak the truth. I mean, come on. And you knew it was coming. Elly De La Cruz will be the first MLB player since Vince Coleman in 1987 to steal over 100 bases. He's got 30 now. Probably not a big stretch of me to do that, but he's gonna. And the other part is the Reds have been so bad. They need something. They need something to hang their hat on a little bit. And I don't think they're going to put any blinders on him. 4 steals in that Dodger game last week. He's going to run. And you know what? Baseball needs guys like this because he is fun to watch. Put an X, not a stretch again. Put an X next to the Dodgers' name in the standings. They're an 8-game spread already. They're going to win that division by 20. That's how good they're going to be. They're going to die in the playoffs again. But yeah, as long as Glasnow is healthy and the other guys come along, they'll be okay. And the other X, and I'm going to put it there now, and I'm not going to jinx them because it's going to happen. Put an X in Kansas City. They're going to win that division. I know they're trailing Cleveland right now. I think KC's got – I love the job Stephen Vogt has done, but I also love the job that Matt Quattrero, Bethlehem Central High School, my high school, the graduate alumni, love the job he has done. I think the Royals have more staying power than the Indians don't call us, or Guardians don't call us Indians as it would go. That's all I got.
I'm not going to fuel a fire on the A's. We beat that horse to the point where it's completely dead. Charlie Finley's mule is beaten like Festus Hagen's mule on Gunsmoke. We're not going to need to talk about that. What did I say when we did the preseason predictions on the AL East? Chris Sale will get to the Braves and probably finish in the friggin' top 5 for Cy Young. Well, guess what?
Yep. He might.
Right now, he might be the front runner in the National League for a Cy Young Award. He's unbelievable. He is, as long as they don't make him wear shorts or some uniform that he doesn't like, as long as they don't let him ride a bike.
Yep.
You know, as long as he doesn't have to listen to Sweet Caroline, I think he's okay. I think that's what it finally took. He looks great. He looks great, and he's stretching out. He's stretching out. So he's, you know, he was 7 innings last night. He is, you know, he's not letting anybody on base. He looks like what he was in Boston before he got hurt. He really looks great. Elly De La Cruz may have 70 stolen bases by the All-Star break.
I'll tell you what, you talk about a fun summer, watching him try and track down Ricky Henderson, if that's even remotely possible.
I may need to look at that bet and see what the prop bet is for over under stolen bases for him by the All-Star break, because to your point, talk about a team that's disappointing. And we were both really high on them with all their young talent. Yeah. I know Matt McClain hasn't played yet, but Jonathan India can't hit. Right, Will Benson can't get on base.
They're 19
and 20. Steer's been really good. Encarnacion Strand is hurt. I mean, they just went from everybody's darling, including ours, right? Yep. To they're the same old Reds. And you're right. They need season tickets were up for them because of the expectation of the team. They need excitement on that team. He brings it all, and he brings it every day. I mean, he plays the right way. He plays hard. He has fun. I like the personality, and he runs like and it can't throw him out. And I don't care about throwovers and bigger bases. I don't care. Because
it doesn't matter.
He can't throw him out, and he knows it. He's got so much confidence on the bases now that when he gets caught, it's amazing. It's stunning. He's like the way Acuna was last year.
Well, you talk about a guy took baseball by storm when he came up last year. In the second half, he wasn't so good. You're like, well, what is he? Okay, well, now we're seeing how good he is. He is electric, and he's the kind of guy you sit down and say, oh, the Reds are on. I want to watch this guy play.
Yeah.
He's perfect for baseball.
Yep, he is. And then the Dodgers, screw them. I mean,
I took
yeah,
the
they're going to win
obvious
the
bet
division.
on
We
that.
said they were going to win the division, and they were going to win it by default because the rest of that division is so bad.
Yeah.
And the Diamondbacks are definitely as much to blame as anybody for why that division is bad. But they're not even that good.
No.
Like, they're not as good as they were advertised. They're still going to win the division, and 20 is probably the right number. And then the Royals are 30-19.
That's a
My
beautiful
God,
thing. Good for
30
them.
and 19. They don't lose games. They don't
No.
lose. I mean, they gave Michael Wacha 9 runs last night. They don't lose games. And it doesn't make any difference who they're playing. They've played. They're not 30-19 because they played a soft schedule. They're 30-19 because they win baseball games. They get great pitching when they need it, and they're not scoring runs. And when they are scoring runs, it doesn't make any difference who pitches. Their bullpen, while probably not what they thought it was going to look like in the beginning of the year, has settled in. Everybody's settled into a role.
Yep.
And I mean, Bobby Witt is Bobby Witt, and he wreaks havoc. And I mean, one of my sell high guys, but I could never bring myself to write his name down, would be Sal Perez, because he's not going to hit 364. I don't think. I don't think.
He's a guy.
He goes
I'm glad
over
you
3
brought
for
him
3
up.
games in a row, and then he goes 4 for 5 and 3 for 4. I mean, it's what the heck is going on, man?
I'm glad you brought up Sal Perez because he's a guy. I think everybody kind of looks at him and says, "Well, he's getting old. He's going to fall off that catcher cliff any day now." And he doesn't, and he continues to log innings, and he just hits and hits and hits. He's done it for a long time. Hall of Famer?
I think he is.
So do I.
I think he is. So I saw a great piece because, as you know, I'm fascinated with all these idiots that never played past high school or played JUCO that run all these camps and all these clinics and all these specialty shops to get players to professional baseball. And the new catching fad is framing.
Yep.
And I saw an interview with him, and they were talking to him, and and I can't remember who was doing what podcast it was on, but he said, you know, the person that was interviewing him said, it's a crime to me that when they list the top 10 defensive catchers in baseball, you're not listed. And he said in spring training, it used to be 40% throwing, 40% blocking, and 20% manning the strike zone. He said this year it was 83% framing, 5% blocking, and the rest was throwing. And he said it's all about framing. And he goes, I do it because they want me to. He goes, but it's taken, like in his words, he goes, it's taken the art of catching away. Everybody's trying to steal pitches, and that's all they care about. And he said, and you know, and he goes, he's not comfortable being down on one knee, but that's where they want the frame is low. Yep. So I love Sal Perez. I mean, there's a Sal Perez jersey in my house, as I've said before. It's my daughter's favorite player. He was the best catcher in baseball when she was catching in softball. She became a Sal Perez fan, hence she's a Royals fan. So she's in her glory. And I'll add one more stat that I saw, and I'm not going to get it right, but local, longtime major league player Jamie Moyer, there was a blurb about him today. In his first start in the majors, he started against Steve Carlton and he faced Mike Schmidt. In his last appearance in the majors, he faced Trout and Ohtani.
Wow.
He was in baseball long enough to be in baseball with 9% of the total players that have ever played in the major leagues.
That's crazy. The original soft tossing lefty.
9%'s a lot. 9%'s a lot. 9% of all the players that ever played in Major League Baseball. 9%'s a lot.
Yeah.
I think he was 22 years, and he was only really hurt once. right? He's a Mariners legend, and of course, he's from this area. His family is famously Moyer's a huge name in the Mennonite world in this area. And when he was with the Phillies, they weren't particularly great when he was there. They were just starting to be great. It was a sellout every time he pitched, and it could have just been his kids. He's got about 130. Him and Philip Rivers are battling to see even have start a team of their sport with their own family members. But yeah, I thought those two, that stat was really amazing. Really amazing.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Amy Moyer. And Glenside native and current St. Louis Cardinal starting center fielder Mike Ciani hit his first major league home run last night.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. And it wasn't and he hit it. It was 379 feet and it was out.
All right.
So yeah, good for him. He'll be here next weekend, and it would not surprise me if a third of the crowd is wearing St. Louis Cardinal stuff.
Really?
They're in the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd. There's rumblings about bus trips on Saturday and Sunday for people from this area with a bunch of tickets. I know that his mom and dad are working with him on trying to get as many of the out-of-town tickets as they possibly can.
Sweet.
To make them available so that everybody can go down there. And despite the fact that he's a rookie and nobody ever heard of him except for those of us in this area before this year, if you go to the MLB shop and you want to grab his jersey, it's still $169.
All right. That's awesome.
And they can see your nipples. And they can see your nipples through
it. There was a clip from the spring training. I'll leave with this that I thought was awesome. I don't remember the guy's name. I've never heard of him. A Blue Jays pitcher who finished last in his fantasy football league. And so for a spring training game, he had to be the team's bat boy. And his uniform number was 4-10. They had to put his record on. I got to look it up. I can't remember his name, but they showed him being the bat boy. He had the helmet on with the 2 ear flaps and everything. And just, go get the bat.
I love it. That's a better punishment than my son's fantasy football league.
What's that?
They put him in a dog cage and threw food at him for 15 minutes. And of course, it was my dog cage. I'm still power washing the egg and the friggin', flour. It was unbelievable. It was really funny.
That's good. All right.
And Wyatt avoided it because he won the last week of the season. He goes, "Or that would have been me." And I go, "And I would have won."
All right, man. Well, on that note, we will see you next week.
Big week. It's a big week.
Okay.
It's a big week. We're getting to Memorial Day. The panic buttons. We'll talk next week, maybe panic button week, because Memorial Day is usually when you realize your team is way better than you thought it was going to be. Or in my case, you blow it up and start all over again.
And Memorial Day for our league is when you got to move guys to their positions that they haven't earned this year. So Kyle Schwarber becomes a DH. I had to trade Christopher Morel because he doesn't play outfield. That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
All righty. Chat at you later.
Adios. Smash the like button.
Yes, please.
Subscribe. Come on, we got, Happy birthday, Rocco. You stood me up, you bastard.
Shohei's bail bonds. Don't you?